of Netball Chat with Sam
and Zac. So I'm on my Anne Sargeant challenge this week, if you watched last week.
First game of the round, Vixens v Swifts for the little McInnes Sargeant trophy.
That's correct.
And Anne Sargeant was down there commentating.
Yeah, well, the trophy's named after her, so
yes.
She was down there. So, interesting game for you, Zac, because let's bring it back to week one, where you laid down this premise that you had that Swifts would be your Vixens for this season. Hashtag Swifts are the new Vixens.
Hashtag Swifts new Vixens.
We are in the second round. It's now time for you to look down that camera and let the peeps know where you stand on this, because I was like, that's a big call. I'm not on that train. I'm not on that hashtag. I'm not hashtagging that. So what's the dealio?
They've played twice. They've lost twice. I had hopes early on in the season. It was looking good, and we have talked about how unconventional and sometimes, a bit erratic the Swifts play are, and there's always a bit of a worry, could they continue it all throughout the season? But yeah, the hope's still there. I think they've got a really good team. They've been there for a long time, but it looks like the Vixens just are the Vixens.
This season.
I think maybe the Swifts have a little bit too much work to do now, but I think they've had a pretty good season, and they're still up there with a chance if they can throw a few spoilers in the back end of the season.
Look, I think they just need this season to solidify and develop all of their different combinations. I think that they just can walk away from this season going, okay, here we are. This is what we need to do
and
for next season. And they will come back stronger.
They've definitely improved from last season, so I can only see them getting stronger again. But Wallace had a really good game, 48 from 50. And I felt that Houseby didn't have the effect that she normally does. So
Hello, Speed. Speed.
I think when she's playing a really strong defence game, when she's doing a lot of that movement,
a lot of work outside of the circle to get the ball in,
and willing to take the goals, then that's the difference for the Swifts. The Vixens were their normal dominant selves.
Yeah. Tegan Phillip had another great game,
which is good to see from Phillip, because normally we've been talking about Kamwenda, but Phillip put up 28 shots this week, and she really dominates that front space, and Kamwenda dominates that back space, and then it's
the baseline with the
and then
air picks.
It gives Watson so many opportunities to, who does she want to pass to? The front, the back, whatever, and she's got those options.
Well, she had 40 opportunities out of 58.
Oh my gosh.
That's 40 assists from 58 goals.
40 goal assists, 63 feeds into the circle.
Once again, so Watson is just putting the attack into wing attack.
And
that must be one.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
And she did fantastic. There was no stopping her, and I think that was the big difference. They brought Kate Eddy on. Abby McCulloch tried hard. Maddie Proud got a caution and a warning because she was so aggressive on the edge of the circle trying to stop Liz Watson, and that wasn't even enough. One of the biggest differences was the conversions of turnovers.
So this is something that sort of falls off the back of our intercept week, where we talked about how important intercepts were and what they can do to the game. And I think Claire McMinnon touched on this when she talked about tips, touches and turnovers, and how important it is to, if you make a turnover, that you convert that turnover.
So Vixens turned over 15 and they converted 10 of those, whereas the Swifts, not as many, and it was quite low. And I think Clow gets those intercepts, or those intercepts come, and then the Swifts don't convert those. And by the fourth quarter, Clow looked deflated. She was just like, I've got no answers. And it is tough for a defender when you continue to work hard, you get those defensive wins, and then
your team's not able to convert them. She's trying to steer the ship from the back, but what is she to do?
Yeah, she can't.
Yeah. She needs the razzle dazzle from the shooters at the other end.
She does need some razzle dazzle.
Okay.
Second game, Fever v Magpies. And since you gave me the rundown of hashtag Swifts New Vixens, we need to talk about your second team, Collingwood Magpies. They were fourth placed in the finals last year. They're your number 2 team. What's the geo? What's going on with the Maggies, do we think? The boys!
With the boys, well, when we look at the individual players of the Magpies, they are solid standout players. You've got quite a few Diamonds girls in there, but when they come together as a whole, it just, second season in, I had all the faith that it was going to work,
Yeah.
but it's still not happening. Now on the weekend, once again, Shay Brown was playing 2 weeks at centre. She's had a goal attack, and then she came on at wing defence.
Wing defence for
She
Brassel.
also played wing attack.
And then centre,
Centre. So what's the dealio? Like, how would she be feeling? What is? I'm just confused.
She is the utility player of that team, and you watch her when she comes on. She's a nuisance. Like, she comes on and really gives it. She is an attacking defensive player. She goes for every single ball. On the edge of that circle, she is just like a mongrel.
Like a magpie during the season when they're trying to swoop in.
Erin Bell taken off after the first quarter. Teague Neal actually had quite a positive.
She had a really good game. She was very dynamic. When she came on the court, and she really injected the Maggies with something that just wasn't happening. Maddie Robinson ended up coming off as well at one stage.
You look at the bench sometimes and it was like a host of stars. Like, Robinson had some go, Brazel had a go on the bench.
Shani didn't take a jumper off.
Shani didn't take a jumper off. In past weeks we've seen Kimmy Rav being on the bench. Like, the coach is not afraid to bench her players. The Fever, they were trialling things in the mid-court, and didn't their mid-court have a great game? Charles and Collier were the ones feeding and using Methurst as a shooter.
And Charles was directing that circle there.
She had 24 feeds.
Working the triangle.
She had 24 goal assists and 38 feeds, and once again using that middle channel really well. She likes that top of the circle,
she was Charles in charge. So let's just talk us through Fowler Reid's game this week.
Fowler, she almost had a record against the Magpies. That's how well she played. 62 goals.
Stats aside, did she crack a smile this week?
Well, at the back end of the third quarter, she took a leaf out of fellow Jamaican Aiken's book and did a little full out of court pop-up, pops into the hoop. She even did a rye dab and threw a smile out there. But we heard that she's got a new tat. That's why she had her arm bandaged up.
Refreshing.
Mum and Dad in the crowd, and her child, and looking like they're here to stay. So maybe that's why she's showing a bit more personality.
Maybe.
Like, the fan
getting the mustard. Assists. She had a crackerjack game. She was really just.
She was a lady shake. She was the Lady
Shake player of the week. The Lady Shake play of the week. Goodness me.
Oh, she took so many intercepts and tips, and
she did.
The double footed jump.
Yep.
She was lovely.
Cutting angles. She was cutting angles.
Bruce.
4
intercepts, 4 deflections.
Doing tips, touches, and turnovers. Doing what her job is.
Steering the ship from behind. As the captain.
Yep.
Captain in charge.
Sticky fingers, Bruce. I'm gonna have to get the green shirt.
Yeah, look out. Lightning beat Birdies, the Q Clash, Queensland Derby. Up on the coast.
Up at the sunny coast.
And this is really why we've got the shirts on this week, because it was the Defenders game, wasn't it? Geitzy, Hinchcliffe, Ventor, Pretorius. You wouldn't be in that circle, would you? There were elbows.
Geitzy got an elbow. There were knees. They were falling out of the court. There was a trip on the post.
Yes, I
know.
Dee
Dee got caught on the post with her foot.
The shooters were getting called for offensive contacts finally. Bassett, Aiken, Tippett, they all had one. There was zero space.
A bit of hustle and bustle down in the circle.
It was as if the Firebirds didn't have their normal connections between Tippett and Aiken, because Jiva was reading some of those passes.
Yeah, she was reading the high balls that Gretel normally flicks off to Aiken. So she'd come off and she'd go in and pull those intercepts, and then Pretorius was busy on the ground. She was picking off the small balls that they were passing out. And the refeeds.
They got called for so many contacts.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
I think by half time they had double the contact penalties that the Firebirds had.
Yep. The Lightning coach, Nolene actually, she actually says to Jiva, you're getting pulled out of the game, you need to stay in the game, you need to come off and you need to cut that penalty rate down, and by the end of the third quarter, she had.
Goal attacks played well this week. Both Steph Wood
Steph
and
Wood.
Gretel Tippett had brilliant games.
Yeah, definitely. I think Steph Wood putting up the long bombs.
They were saying they took a leaf out of Aiken and Tippett's book this week, so maybe that's what they were training. Bassett moved a bit more, and she was passing into Steph Wood, and Steph Wood was putting up the shots.
Yeah.
So maybe they were practicing that for the defenders, and then they decided they'd give it a go, they'd give it a run.
But down the other end, once again, Gretel Tippett, when that little flick pass to Dee Dee's wasn't happening, she just started going her own, and she was getting the shots in. And by, end of the first quarter, she actually had only missed one goal, and she had put in more shots than Dee Dee had. So, by halftime. So Gretel is just, once again, she's on fire.
The circles were deadly. So I think the mid-court, some of the differences were, and the commentators made note that it was as if the Lightning were playing more cohesively as a team, whereas the Firebirds were a bit more individual, because the Lightning were finding that space on the edge of the circle, whereas it appeared like the Firebirds didn't have as much space, and it was really tightened on the body, and like they were shutting down that feeding by Gretel Tippett, and so Nevins had to come into the game a bit more and take a few more of those feeds. Last game of the round, Giants v Thunder. And the headbands are back on because Harden had a crack.
Hashtag with Harden. One week till Joe.
1 week till Joe. Already. Please send us your pics. We haven't had any more pics lately. Any more Harden, hashtag with Hardens. Send them through.
And hopefully in 2 weeks' time, we'll
be able to show our own hashtag.
We'll be able to show
our
own
oh my gosh.
desperate selfie with Joe. How does it go again?
How's it been?
It was a bit of a weird game, wasn't it?
Oh gosh, it was a knockout. It's a knockout.
It's the knockout. That's the name of the game. We had two. Well, not complete knockouts. Pullman had a blood nose.
She came off.
Guthrie and old mate had a collision.
Yeah, she was walking around. I reckon she literally had concussion. Yeah. She was walking around a bit blinded there for a bit, wasn't she? Didn't know where she was.
Yeah, remember how I got knocked out? It's still there. I've still got the evidence.
Maybe that was in Canberra. Maybe that's why she was so confused. They had the game in Canberra.
Yeah, that's right. They did have the game in Canberra.
Where am I? I don't know where I am. Jamie Lee Price came on a centre, so they like the defensive centres, don't they? And she played quite well.
They do like the defensive centres.
Kim Green, she's off with an injury.
Yes,
Kira Austin stepped up.
She wasn't playing.
She stepped into the role of Kim Green quite well. 20 goal assists. Like the stats. Kira Austin, what a breath of fresh air she is.
Yeah. How about Pettit? Home Alone. Shimmo the spoiler.
Shim shimmaroo, shim shimmaroo, shim shimmaroo.
Yeah, we love a bit of shimmo action. Yep.
It was a shooting fest, wasn't it?
It was a shooting fest by the Giants. Yeah, Anne Sargeant,
she had some good ones.
Next level with the calls. Love it. Really enjoy listening to you.
Dan Ryan, we need to have a chat about him. Yeah. So he's at the end of his contract. It hasn't been renewed with the Thunderbirds. What do you think?
It's a bit of a farewell for him, really, isn't it?
Devastating. The lone soldier male coach of Suncorp Super Netball. Yeah. I'd like to see the Thunderbirds keep some of their team together. I'd like to see them stay formed, because they had so many changes last season, and we have seen some really great moments from Nelson. We've seen some great moments from Pittman still doing well. Charlie Hodges is doing fantastic.
Charlie Hodges has come in and she's really doing well. But DeBrain and Shimmo in that circle, week in, week out, are doing some really good stuff. They are continuing to put that defensive pressure on those shooters.
So hopefully they stay together, because, the longer teams stay together, aka the Swifts and the Vixens, then maybe this will be a good thing for the Thunderbirds as well.
Yeah, well, aka the FIFA, who've gone from the bottom to the top.
We thought we might do a bit of film fact, so you get to learn a little bit about us. I was a xylophone whiz in the school band, and even did a xylo solo at church one week.
That is for show.
Yeah, that's a fact, that one.
I failed my learner's license 7 times.
Oh, yeah. Such a fact. Yeah, Definitely. I know you're driving. Bungee jumped off a bridge in New Zealand.
That is such a fib.
Why? How did you know?
Because I would know if you did it, and
Yeah,
you're too much of a squealer.
I'm afraid of heights.
And plus, you're so lanky. In the jump, you might just like stretch out and just slip straight through the harness.
Yeah.
I once shot 99% in a game of indoor netball.
Did you not? When? What game? Was I on the court?
Yes, but I got 2 out of 3 goals. That was one of my last. Oh. Okay, we won't do that one.
Upside down, 99%. I have a mango-shaped birthmark at the top of my right thigh.
You do have some sort of, don't you?
Well, it's kind of a fact, but I don't know if it's mango-shaped, but I just liked that thing from Janelle. I do have one on the top of my right thigh, so I just went fact.
I auditioned for Big Brother.
Ah! You were at the last stage, didn't you?
Yeah, second last.
Second last stage. She almost made Greta Colleen. 2 tips. So I think it's 3-3. Right, round 10. Here we go. First one. Birdies v Vixens. Look, it's in Brizzy. I think the Birdies.
Firebirds. Hashtag We Are Purple.
Firebirds,
Hashtag Purple Wings.
Heart. Fever Lightning in Perth.
Fever.
Thunderbirds Magpies. Bottom of the table clash. 7th versus 8th. Is this the Thunderbirds' time?
Oh, I'd love to see it, but no, the
Magpies
Magpies will come away with it.
And Giants Swifts. New South Wales clash.
Giants.
Sydney. Yeah, I think the Giants.
Yeah, for sure.
We are the Giants.
No.
So, Famously Tom. Right, so this week in goal shooter I had Sam Wallace. Goal attack I had Phillip. Wing attack, Watson. Who else? Centre kept the same, Verity Charles.
Charles in charge.
Wing defence, Jess Anstis. Goal defence, Joe Weston. And goalkeeper, despite penalties, I thought Jiva Mentor. Jeez. She had a game.
Yeah. Okay, so this week for my fantasy team, because she shot that goddamn last goal in the last 2 seconds, I've given goal shooter to Caitlin Bassett. Goal attack was really hard for me this week because Tippett and Wood both were just amazing. But you know, got a soft spot for Grits. So
Let's go.
Katie Nevins in wing attack.
Good choice.
Charles in charge for centre.
Yeah.
Also, Jess Anstis in wing defence as well because she was really dynamic. Look, sticky fingers Pretorius. And of course, I agree, Jeeves at goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I think that combo, unfortunately, reluctantly, I'd like to say, made it, got the lightning over the line. Stay tuned. All right, that's another week of Netball Chat with
Sam
and Zac.
Woo! So ya rise like a
Now,
phoenix
started from the bottom, now I'm
out of the ashes.
Started from the bottom, now I'm here. No, I'm doing Drake. I don't know what you're doing. You're doing a church
I'm
song
doing
again?
Conchita Burst. Eurovision.
I think our audience would assimilate with Drake more, but anyway.
Well, it all depends, UK viewers. Hello, loving a bit of Conchita Wurst, aren't you? I'll pull out some.
Are you eating something when you say that? It sounds like you're eating some sort of like
The
a
bearded
hamburger
lady,
or
the
sausage.
The bearded lady.
No,
the bearded
don't
lady.
know her. I don't watch Eurovision. Queensland Derby. Queensland Derby. Oh, oh!
Just picked up a few. You're right. You're right there, Anne Sargeant.
Yeah. Two stretches and turnovers. By the floorboards.
Retreats like a naughty schoolgirl.